Hi again. Uh, Today we're going to be talking about setting, and it's a much bigger topic than most students realize. So actually, I chose a different setting to be in today so that I could stress the point that setting is so different. I'm actually at our place in Canandaigua, New York, and on Lake Canandaigua. In fact, you can see my boat right there over my shoulder. It sits in a canal that goes right out to the lake, and the canal goes right over that way, and you can see the other boats on the way out to the lake. The lake is it starts right there, okay? We're a stone's throw actually from the end of the lake, but our boat sits in water right here off our porch, which is really kind of cool, kind of nice. We're pretty lucky to be able to have something like this. Anyway, be that as it may, that's the setting. And again, if I were at home, there'd be nothing different about the setting. But this is in a different setting because I want you to understand that setting is more than just a place. Lots more than just a place. Most of us think of setting as just a place, okay? I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but I want to make sure you understand that setting is a huge part of many stories, and it is more than just a place. So we'll get to all of that in a minute. Your essays are really good. I told you last week I would give you extra credit if you got them to me early because we were coming here for the weekend. And so I wanted to have as much done as I could before the weekend. We have a clubhouse 100 yards away, and so I was over there and was able to finish up your essays yesterday, so that worked out okay, but I was able to get most of them done in advance. And to those of you that did do them early, thank you, I appreciate that, and I did raise your grades a little bit because of it, so as promised. Okay, so anyway, setting. Yes, setting is place, certainly. That's one facet of setting, okay? But that's only one facet of setting, okay? There's lots of parts to it. Setting not only includes place, it includes something like weather, okay? Weather is part of setting. Now, if it were raining out here today, instead of being, in the warmest and sunniest mid-September we've had in over 100 years, I wouldn't be where I am right now, okay? If I were making this video at all, I'd be making it indoors. Or, if I were making it here at Canandaigua rather than waiting until I get back home this evening. I wouldn't be outside. So weather is a factor in setting, okay? Keep that in mind. Weather is an important factor in setting, okay? And actually in both stories that we're reading for this week, weather plays a significant role, weather as a part of the setting, okay? Really important, okay? Secondly, the time period is really important. And I don't mean just the season, because obviously the season is important. Again, with where I'm sitting right now, if it were January, I wouldn't be sitting here. First of all, I cover up my awning. You can see the edge of my awning over here. I cover that up so that wouldn't be out in January. Secondly, the table that I'm sitting at, we put that away. That's not out here in January. And of course, my boat is not sitting right there in January. Okay? So, I'm giving you examples of time period based on season, okay, which is a condensed time period thing. So, we've already talked about weather, we've talked about season. Time period is something much bigger actually than season, okay? For instance, if we were talking about being in the Yukon Territory in the winter in the year 1900, it would be very different from being in the Yukon in the year 2018 in the winter, okay? In the year 2018, it probably wouldn't be pleasant, although they still do the Iditarod there, but we have much better clothing today than we had, 100 some years ago, okay? Um, but also we have much better communication, so that if you ran into trouble today, it would be much easier to let somebody know you were in trouble than it was, 100 some years ago, when we didn't have all the means of communication. I mean, 100 some years ago, all you really could have done if you were in the Yukon and there was, you were in some kind of catastrophic situation, all you really could have done is maybe hope somebody saw your smoke signals and do a lot of shouting, hoping that somebody might be nearby enough to hear you. But in some place as desolate as that, that probably wouldn't have done much good. Okay, so that, time period, this world, as opposed to the world of the 1960s, as opposed to the world of the 1920s, as opposed to the world of 1900, as opposed to the world of 1850 or 1860. All of these time periods are different. Our world continues to change. Okay, you know, when I was all of your age, people didn't carry phones. There weren't phones for people to carry. Phones were all attached to the wall. Okay, so and there was no such thing as Google. No such thing. There were no such things as computers. Okay, well, that's a little bit of a stretch, because we did put men on the moon in the 1960s, but those computers were, as big as a house. Okay, now you could do it with the computer that sits on your desk, but in those days all that stuff was as big as a house. So time change is unbelievable, and so the time a story is set in certainly has a difference in the way we interpret it. So in fact, one of the stories that we're talking about this week, it takes place in the city of Sarajevo, and in Sarajevo is where an assassin named Princip decided to try to assassinate the Archduke Ferdinand, and his assassinating the Archduke Ferdinand and his wife was really the thing that kind of broke the camel's back and started World War I. Okay, and ironically, that setting is really critical for the story, because I'll want you to kind of make these ties as part of your essay on setting, that Princip was assassinating something, so people were dying, just as in this story somebody is making the decision that something should be dying. And Princip has two chances, and that's important. And in fact, that's part of the setting too, that he was able to get from one spot to the other very quickly and easily, where the motorcade was going by with the Archduke in, so that he had a chance to shoot him in two different places. Okay, well, there's two different times going on in the story too. I mean to say, the incidents going on in the story, it's like a second chance kind of thing. So keep that in mind as you read it. The weather does play a significant part in this story too. In F, the weather is important. It's important. It's really important in both stories. But in F, would all of this have happened if the weather were not cold and rainy? If it were like it is today, bright and sunny, then this whole trip would have been very different from what it was. And so that's part of the setting, is the weather. Okay, so we've talked about at least 4 factors that are part of setting: the place, the season, the time, the weather, even the time of day can be significantly different. Okay, even it's like my wife said to me yesterday. We have season tickets for Shays. Okay, and my wife said to me yesterday that she would much rather that we go on Sunday afternoons than the Sunday evenings we've always gone on, because she said in the evening you don't see the sidewalk isn't so well lit, and in the wintertime it could be icy and you can't really see it and such. So, that setting, we park in the same place when we go downtown to Shays, and it's the same walk to Shays all the time. But the fact that it's a different time of the day can be a part of the setting, okay? And even the people who are there can be a part of the setting, Down in the area around Shays, that whole neighborhood is much better now than it used to be, say, 15 years ago. But 15 years ago, they built a police station right down there because it was an area where you didn't want to be because of the potential for crime. In fact, a faculty member at Trocaire used to own a nightclub right down in that vicinity. And because there was a shooting outside of it, and it was a gang-related shooting kind of thing, because there was a shooting outside of it, he basically had to close his nightclub. This was something that happened at night. During the day, it was fine, but at night. So setting involves time period, time of day, season, weather, obviously place, what's going on in the world is part of setting, the political thing. So, this Archduke Ferdinand, had the world not been politically so tense as it was back in that period, and as it frequently is, but had it not been so tense then maybe nobody would have wanted to kill him, and so that assassination wouldn't have taken place. So, world politics and individual section politics and such, like politically, we're getting all of these ads on television now because there's an election coming up, and anytime it's the Democratic political party, they're making sure that they're smashing Donald Trump whenever they can, and of course they're totally ignoring the fact that employment is the highest it's ever been, wages are the highest that they've ever been, industry is growing again for the first time in 40 years, we are exporting more goods and manufacturing more goods than we have any time in the last 30 or 40 years. Economically, our country is so much better, but they're ignoring all of that because, they're just trying to point out any little negatives they can find rather than looking in the whole picture. So when you watch television now and you see these ads, it's part of the setting thing, the whole political tone that's going on in the world. So setting is really multifaceted, okay? It involves a whole lot of things. So you need a video question this week, and your video question is, tell me, and you don't have to detail them, all you have to do is list them, 4 factors that are part of the whole literary concept of setting, okay? Because all of the things that we talked about not only are part of our real world, but they're also part of setting in pieces of literature, and you'll see some of them in each of the pieces of literature, and of course in your essays I'll want you to develop some of them, okay? So, as well as bring in some other things, bring in personal things. I had somebody about the story to build a fire. Somebody had lived in Alaska, and when they lived there, they had taken a thing of water and gone outside with it and thrown it in the air, and before it hit the ground, it froze, and they had videoed this. So they posted the video on Moodle so that we could all see that as part of their essay, It was really cool. So anyway, feel free to, add, and the things that you've added that are personal, they've been great additions to it. So have a good week. You know where you get a hold of me, and hopefully you have a good idea what setting is. And again, for your video question, just list at least 4 things that are part of the concept of setting. Thanks.